Hello and welcome to the Guitar Hang Podcast. I'm your host, Jon Stankorb. Well, it's Season 10, Episode 9, and today's episode is something truly special. We're diving into a remarkable new collaboration between five-time Grammy Award-winning guitarist, composer, and producer Mark Lettieri and world-renowned sitar master Purbayan Chatterjee. Their upcoming debut album, Feathered Creatures, drops June 5th, and it's an incredible meeting of musical worlds, blending progressive Indian classical sitar with electric guitar textures in a way that feels adventurous, emotional, and completely fresh. This isn't just a fusion record, it's two master musicians listening deeply to one another and creating something entirely new through collaboration and chemistry. Cross-continental creativity at its absolute best. We're going to talk about the creative process behind the album, improvisation, rhythm, tone, composition, musical risk-taking, and how different traditions can come together to create something new, powerful, and inspiring. So wherever you're listening from around the world, sit back and relax and enjoy this conversation with Mark and Purbayan right here on the Guitar Hang Podcast. Before we get started, today's episode is sponsored in part by the Woodshed Guitar Experience, an immersive guitar camp experience featuring world-class musicians, clinics, performances, mentorship, and an incredible community of passionate players. Listeners of the Guitar Hang Podcast can use promo code GuitarHang300 to receive $300 off admission. So let's get started on the Guitar Hang Podcast. It's been 3 years in the making. That's substantial, right?
For the album, you mean?
For the album, that's yes.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It depends. Some people take 10 years to make a record. I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
When you have so many projects, because I think between the two of you, if you fanned out everything that you're working on,
right,
represents a lot of different projects.
We met in India. I was on tour there with Snarky Puppy, and Purbayan is a friend of our bass players, Michael, and so Michael had invited him to come sit in at the show, and so that's where we actually met for the first time and played together for the first time.
So I think it's interesting because I think me and Mark, we come from almost like diverse backgrounds. Like, my world of Indian classical music, which is very traditional and also a lot of like solo playing, in the sense that Indian classical music is very melody driven. And so in the traditional music, it's just a sitar player and a tabla player. And from what I can understand of, Mark has been part of a lot of different bands, a lot of big bands. Snarky Puppy is like a big band usually. And when we met, I can speak for myself. We met in the trailer. We had a moment in the trailer where we were like, "Oh, this is really cool. Show me this." Mark asked me, and I was admiring what I played on the song Lingus and Chofu Khan, and I admired some of the things that Mark was doing, and I think we instantly became friends, which was very important because I instantly felt like. I could ask him, whether he would. I mean, there needs to be comfort between two people, in order to say, okay, hey man, do you think you'll play on my album, and so on. And I was already writing the music for this album, and when I actually took it to Michael for his suggestions and whether he said, hey man, I think this could do with some guitars, and so. Mark was the first person I thought of, and that's how it started. It started from him just doing some, little guitar bits on some of the songs. From there to co-writing some of the songs and to, writing whole parts of the songs and to a full-blown collaboration.
Yeah. The some of the techniques for the uninitiated listener, sometimes you're not used to hearing the sitar played in such a at times it's very lyrical and melodic, like you were thinking it's slide, and then there's other times where it's John McLaughlin-esque, where there's some really incredibly fast things that to a lot of players, I'll speak for myself, I hadn't experienced that as much, and it was very appealing to the ear to hear the instrument played in that way.
Thank you. So I just want to say in that context that the sitar is traditionally seen as a very serene, ambient kind of instrument, which it is, and it takes you to this ancient era of raga music. All of it, is true. But my life's mission, since I started out as a young student of the sitar, has been to use the playing technique that I've learned to express just about anything. If and that to that end, I'm deeply inspired. I mean, I saw Mark play in Boston live. I remember and got to hang out with the band. He was playing with Corey Wong, and what's the name of the band? Wong Tides. Is it called Wong Tides? Wong Tides. Yeah,
Well, I think it was Wong Notes. I
Wong
think
Notes.
is what he
Yeah,
called
right.
it at the time. Yeah, Corey and the
Correct.
Wong Notes. Yeah, that was it.
Correct. And in the world of funk or funk jazz, I mean the playing techniques, the way that Mark approaches the rhythm guitar or the baritone, I'm very inspired by some of those techniques. And I guess even without consciously wanting to imbibe a certain technique, when you listen to a lot of that, then you're automatically playing some stuff within the purview of raga music, which changes the idiom of the music somewhat. So I'm very glad people like it, or you like it. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting is that there was something I read that was, I don't know if this is a direct quote or some, not fusion, but elevation. The concept that you guys are elevating one another. It's less about putting too much of a label on what it is. If is it fusion, is it this? But it's the way that you guys are inspiring each other and elevating the music. So it's regardless of labels. It's what you're doing for each other as human beings and players, just elevating and getting you into different thoughts of or modes of playing that maybe you hadn't traversed on your own. Be interesting to extrapolate on that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a new, it definitely was a new avenue for me because I had never worked with
Yeah.
a sitar player, and I had done not all that much, like, I guess you'd call it electronic dance music either. I mean, I've done plenty of pop sessions which have
Yeah.
programming and things, but I feel like this had more of a dedicated EDM thing to it, which I mean, it's a lot of it's four on the floor, so as a funk R&B player, that's easy for me to translate. Where it got difficult was where it was four on the floor in like 17 or some crazy 11, these odd time signatures, which are totally indicative of Purbayan's culture and the ragas and that kind of thing. So to blend that with the kind of dance beats that we have going on, I thought was really, really cool and challenging in a fun way. Like not challenging like, oh man, I gotta play that. Like challenging like, ooh, how can I play this? Like, what can I do here? How can I get better at music by doing these sessions? So, in that regard, it did definitely elevate my skill set quite a bit. I think just in terms of my ability to count while I play. But yeah, it was cool, man. And I hope what I brought inspired Purbayan to come up with some different ideas and exist in a realm that maybe he hadn't quite explored yet. So.
Definitely did.
Yeah, that would be interesting to kind of hear maybe some ways in which, in listening back, as the tracks were coming together, things that you discovered that you were like, man, I'm leaning into an area that maybe I don't get to as often, or maybe I haven't been before. I know younger students that I have are always asking that whether they're getting into North Indian classical music or progressive stuff, just trying to internalize more complicated rhythms for them is a challenge to be able to keep large, vast pieces of music in there. So, any insight as you were younger players, how you internalized bigger chunks of how you were learning these phonetically or otherwise?
So I think in the context of Indian music, it's very important to understand that one of the basic cultures, especially the music from the northern part of India, where I come from, which is called the Hindustani classical music, it's very common to have like what we call a vilamvit, of a rhythmic cycle. Vilamvit meaning when instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, you're actually zooming in and slowing it down to 1, 2, 3. So almost every beat is like a bar, and it's quite common for us to do that. But to stay with, so when you're saying, you're not just saying 1, 2, but you're actually going 1, 2. So there's like a grid. So for us, and it's a very interesting intersection of worlds for me, especially because in if I understand correctly, in the world of any kind of rhythm instrument, when you're playing the guitar as a rhythm instrument, you're basically creating a groove around anything. Okay, so it almost comes to a point where it doesn't matter whether it's 8.5 or 7.5. The way you internalize the time around it is you're internalizing a sense of groove. You're actually like, in one of our songs, which is da 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 dum, da, 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 da. So there's a groove which internally builds into your body almost. And when you're playing it, you're not counting. It's not mathematical as it is intuitive. So that's my process. That's what I would like to say is my process. And of course, when you approach certain composed sections, when you're soloing over it, it's internal intuitive, but there are certain composed sections. There are things which we call tihais and things. There's a little bit of math involved in it. So
Right.
that's kind of to break down my approach.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to if you could talk a little bit about where because everybody's concept of time. Well, in if we talk about in Mark's band, Snarky Puppy, uh, there's a time feel, and you get used to where the rhythm section feels or internalizes groove, and you establish that, and that's something that you get to know each other very well over time with recordings and live performances and that sort of thing. When you guys came together, did it take a while to feel where it's not exactly the same kind of thing in terms of the grooves aren't the same as dance music, but there is a kind of, I would think, a propulsion of, and where things sit. Did that take a while for you to establish a fundamental feel of the pocket, for lack of a better term? I don't know if pocket applies in this type of music that you
Right.
guys are creating, but
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, no. I didn't. Yeah, I think that the most difficult thing for me was recognizing the odd patterns of things,
right.
that's just going to be that just takes elbow grease to work out for
Yeah.
me at least. I have to just listen to it 1,000 times. You know, usually it's some depending on the groove. Sometimes I'm not thinking about the groove. I'm thinking about the melody, and so whatever the
Hmm.
melody is, when I hear this certain series of notes, then I know the beat it's about to drop a beat or this is where the chime shifts or whatever it is. So I'm always just kind of constantly listening to everything as a whole to find those little anchor
Hmm.
points that are going to help me kind of go along. Whether it's a pattern played by a rhythm like a percussion instrument or something Purbayan's doing or something that the program kick drum is doing, whatever. Um, but in terms of like just overall pocket, I mean that's just something that comes from playing music of any kind and just learning how to communicate a solid rhythm. I mean, you can have great pocket no matter what kind of style of music you play.
Hmm.
And so I think for a project like this, the two of us have good time feel when it comes to music that grooves really hard. And so it wasn't that hard to like find a common rhythm, or find a common pocket, to use the phrase that you chose. Yeah.
Were there, because like listening to the tune 9,000 Miles, it's got such an incredible intro to it. Were there things that you were coming up with that some ideas that you knew intuitively would be really great to hear the other person play as you're composing these pieces? You thought, man, this would be. Were you thinking of each other in terms of, or was there less of that and it was more of just kind of each person contributing, and you were never thinking about the other person in terms of coming up with a part that you would love to hear on their respective instruments?
I don't know if we did that. I think we just were like, this song could go here now. What do you think about that? And that was one of those songs. I mean, because I think you, Purbayan, you had the dun 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 ba dun 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 ba dun dun, right? So I had the time signature already.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, how about for the solo section, it just moves these two major sus chords a minor third part, which is something that I do in my own music a lot. So I was kind of like, okay, this makes sense, except crap, now it's in 17. So so that's kind of how that one of those sections kind of came in. But yeah, I think the whole kind of impetus of this whole, not impetus, but the umbrella of this project was like, any idea is a good idea. Yeah. And I don't think there was anything where I sent you and you were like, no.
Yeah, there wasn't. Honestly,
I don't think that ever happened.
And that was honestly a case of me liking everything, first.
Well, sure. Okay. Well, good. Yeah. But I mean, from my end, when it was time for me to add something, I was just being really conscious of like, what I'm adding now needs to speak to this idea that Purbayan's has. I'm not trying to take it into it. It doesn't need to sound like two songs written by two different people.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's kind of the beauty of co-writing when it really comes together, is that like whoever is coming in second, like you can change things and move things around, but if the initial idea is already there and is established, whatever you do still kind of has to support that,
Yeah, I think that was the thing that struck me. It was that it was a not unlike something that you would hear Zakir Hussain and Mickey Hart do, or Ry Cooder and VM Bat. It sounded like a really thoughtful, interesting piece of music where it was two people that were blending, and it was just enjoying the music. You weren't sitting there just listening for necessarily just incredible passages, because all that was there, but it was serving the greater whole of the tunes. And like Rise and Shrine, I thought, man, that was such an amazingly cool cinematic thing. I would love to hear more of that kind of. That was one of my favorite pieces, I think. I mean, I loved it all, but that was one in particular. I just thought, man, that's very epic.
So I got to say that what Mark said is very true, because I've kind of played it back many times. Before you put something out, you're trying to be the audience, you're trying to be the critic, you're trying to assess what the reaction is going to be. And one of the things I find about this record, which is incredible, for the fact that we really never got in the same room, while making the record, is that it sounds incredibly cohesive. It sounds like, it's, and I think the credit for that goes to Mark. As he said, the person who comes second, person who comes first has already given it a sense of direction, has already written the riffs, or written, his or her vision of what the song might be. The person who comes in second has the double job of bringing in their vision, but also aligning it with the existing vision of the song. And I think Mark is is the most fantastic, because I've worked with a whole bunch of very great people, who've been on in the past in my and as much as you can hear the signature of their greatness in the song, but this is really incredible because it's come together in a manner as if he were writing the song with me from the start. So
Yeah.
if you didn't tell somebody that we were, 9,000 miles apart and right, they would almost think that we got together every couple of days and say, hey man, what do you think about this idea? Can we, that's the usual process when you're in the same city or in the same, same zone,
Yeah.
same area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and well, thank you, dude. Appreciate that. And I'll definitely give a shout out to our producer Nakul Chug, who really had a real strong hand in the sound design and making
Yes.
these things seem seamless. Because a lot of what would happen is I would write a part of the song, send it in with my sounds that I used, and I'd be like, okay, Nakul, you could use these, but you could also, replace these so it fits with what plugins you're using and what synth sounds you're using. And so, if we were in the same room, that stuff probably would have gotten done a lot quicker. But there's only so much
Right.
software that one person can own.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So he did a really excellent job of sewing our stuff, together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I detected on Bridges a really cool baritone thing that was with the sitar. It was
There
a
actually is no
baritone.
baritone. There is no baritone on that song, but there is the acoustic guitars are tuned in DADGAD, so maybe it
in
sounded
DADGAD,
a
okay.
little lower. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you remember what I'm referring to the tune? I believe it's Bridges. There's kind of like a
On Bridges, I don't think there's a baritone guitar.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, I guess perhaps
Maybe it sounded like one, or how they mixed it.
yeah, maybe that would explain the DADGAD tuning on maybe the culprit.
Yeah,
there,
and
but
there's probably 2 or 3 synth bass parts in there too, so maybe it's pretending to be a baritone. Yeah.
it's hard to. It's coming out on the 5th of June, and it's still very fresh. But are there any standout tunes or things that where you feel like, wow, some of these tunes went in places that were very surprising or uplifting or had a special connection for you as the composer? For either one of you, just
I don't know. I mean, Hibiscus is one of my favorite ones. That song's really cool because it's like it's vibey, it's chill, but you can hear the Indian thing. But then it's kind of got this like '70s soul thing happening somehow. I don't know how that happened, but
yeah.
well,
that's not a surprising thing, I suspect.
Well,
right?
maybe so. Yeah, maybe so. But that tune is really cool. I hope people pick up on that. I don't know if we're doing that one as a single or not. I think that's actually the latest volley of emails back and forth has been about if that's going to get its own little special treatment or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. So Hibiscus, since Mark brought it up, I think I agree with Mark in saying that if there's one song which is reflective of the spirit of the record, it is Hibiscus. And I wrote that tune as a tribute to Zakir Hussain, and the reason why it's got that, I guess what Mark calls the '70s vibe is, what I took is when there's a tabla player playing a traditional tabla solo, then you have this thing on loop, which kind of gives him a sense of the cycle, which is a melody written to give the sense of whichever cycle the solo is on, is called the lehra, and I took that and transformed it. wanted to bring it almost in the sense of a trance kind of a repeating kind of a trance, to take the listener on a trance like state. So if you see that it keeps repeating again and again, and that's what makes it vibey, I guess. And then when Mark, but the song was very different till Mark added. When Mark came on the song, I think the whole the multi-layered kind of the whole multi-dimensional sense of the song truly came out. And in hindsight, maybe, I don't know, maybe we should have shot a video for it or something, but we were
Maybe
just,
so. Well, you know,
yeah, pressed for time because we're in two different continents. And I
right.
think we've done a pretty good job, as far as that's concerned, because thankfully Mark came for a gig here in Mumbai, where we could play some of the tunes from this record, and we took that opportunity to shoot two of the videos, and then the other one we've done with a real special one, which is now coming out. We've used the benefits of technology, and a shot. Mark has shot in his his in his city, and I saw shot in Mumbai. So very excited about that one. But that one's for Shallow Water Blackout.
Shallow Water Blackout.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, the heavy metal song.
Psytrance.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, were there, as you guys were getting to know one another, were there things from your earlier, any intersect of like prog rock, metal, anything, Dream Theater kind of things that you got, things that you shared, or things that were interesting to find out that you're equally enamored with, even if that falls outside of something that would be a commercial?
I mean, I think we have a lot of the same influences, as far as like Western music maybe is concerned. But I mean, I know Purbayan, you've played with Jordan Rudess, and I've hung out with
Yep.
him and everything. So
Yeah.
there probably
Yeah.
is probably is a small Dream Theater thing happening in
Right.
there. I don't know how deeply, but yeah, I mean, I love, of course they're a great band, and King's X is another really
Right.
popular to
Yeah.
me band that I really like, which I definitely drew from their influences on one song that I wrote for, and yeah, I mean, I grew up playing a lot of heavy music, so a song like Shallow Water Blackout is all like high gain power chord, palm muted kind of stuff, which is something I'm very
Yeah.
comfortable doing, and get excited when people ask me to do that. So, um, but then yeah, I mean, there's influences of R&B, and the song like Hibiscus. There's the bass line that I wrote for the section is a totally Stevie Wonder ripoff,
Yeah.
but on purpose. It's a
Yeah.
little nod there. But so yeah, it's everything from Stevie to prog metal, man, with Indian music thrown in there.
Yeah, and for me also, when the Indian part of it, the melodies, also the way that it is woven into the the soundscape of the entire song, there are several influences there. When you speak about the kind of things that have been done in Indian music, back from the days of John Handy and Ali Akbar Khan, who's my master, my teacher, to of course John McLaughlin, as you correctly said, and Shakti and Zakir Hussain, the way the groove vis-a-vis the melody, coming right down to Snarky Puppy. I mean, I'm deeply influenced by their music also, and maybe some of the odd time signatures, and how one often one time signature flows into another. That's, I mean, a little bit of Dream Theater and a little bit of Snarky Puppy. Even sonically, the influences of. I know a lot of this album, and in fact, Michael told me this. He said, "I'm very pleasantly surprised to see," because he has played on another record of mine, which was more kind of old school jazz meets Indian classical, which is a traditional way of. But I guess the whole electronic element of this, Nakul and has to be given a lot of credit here, because Nakul and myself have been working for a while, and I told him, man, I need to do something which is reflective of modern day sounds. something which is easy listening. Also, it's intelligent songwriting. It's intelligent in its arrangements and so on and so forth. But in a very unobtrusive, unconscious manner. It's also just easy listening. It's the kind of music that you can put on in a club, and you can just move to it a little bit. So I guess that was part of the spirit of what I wanted to approach.
Yeah, I had the benefit of getting to hear it while I was doing some traveling, and I was like, man, this is just the most. I'm not a big fan of flying. I know that it's important to get to places that you need to get to quickly, but man, that was made the whole experience so much more enjoyable. And
it's good traveling music. Yeah,
it really is great. Yeah, there's something very.
It's kind of good in the gym also. I've tried it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
On the treadmill or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if this quote was improperly or maybe correctly credited to Mark, but having many identities is the identity. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think I did say something along those lines.
But I love the concept that having many identities is a wonderful statement to make as an identity of what this is, because it's very. I do feel like that there's a lot of people that would know you, or Purbayan or Mark, and separately hear the music and be maybe not hear of one but have heard of the other, and will be pulled into something that is very exciting and like, man, I hadn't heard that side of Mark, or I hadn't heard that side of Purbayan. I would love this new thing because it's so great in the composition of it. I don't feel like either one of you was. There's moments when both of you were out front, but it was serving. It was not a shred fest in any way. They were really great, engaging songs that it really made me feel good. And sometimes with some of my favorite players, I get a little fatigued sometimes. Because maybe it's because I'm going into wanting to be inspired by the technique, but with this, it was two amazing players that I just loved the tunes, and I loved it as a whole. I mean, it just seemed like I liked the track order of it. It was very cinematic. It felt like there was a theme running. I couldn't put my finger on what I haven't had enough listens, but it really did feel like a cohesive cinema experience from beginning to end, that's not an easy thing to do, I suspect.
Cool, man. Awesome. Thanks.
That's fabulous to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like a. No, I was just going to say, I think there's kind of I think it's pretty common for modern musicians now to feel like they can kind of engage stylistically in however they want. Especially if you operate on an independent level. Right. I mean, I think if the internet was good for one thing with music, it was that it sort of put the power in the artist that they can kind of put out whatever they want. I mean, like whether or not people are going to hear it or whether or not they're going to get paid for it or whatever is a different question. But at least we have sort of the platform to do that. So I think nowadays it's pretty common, especially for musicians of my age, millennials who are used to playing a lot of kinds of music. We have a lot of different kinds of influences, and we're okay with shifting genres because that's where we get fulfilled. It's not one thing all the time. It's a lot of different things all the time. And I know Purbayan's obviously very of the same mindset, because if he wasn't, then we wouldn't be doing this,
Absolutely.
But there is, I think that's what's cool about modern creative, independent, instrumental-based music nowadays, is that like there aren't really any barriers to what you can make. No one's telling us to not do something, because we just decide to do what we want.
Right.
For me, I think also what has been very exciting in this process, and this is an ongoing thing, is the cross-pollination. Getting heard by each other's communities. For me, it's very exciting to be a small part of the guitar community. I mean, there's, I really, I'm getting to admire how how wonderful it is as a community. It's nice. It's
Well, I
wonderful. I
think you're
wish.
about to be a much bigger one than you think.
No,
So,
there's, it's incredible. I wish there were such a cohesive, strong, supportive sitar community. Maybe sometime in the future, but definitely in the Indian music community. Now, Mark, of course, they already knew him as Snarky Puppy, as a band member of the Fearless Flyers. But now there's a whole different identity. I get all these, emails. I get all these messages asking me, can you connect me? Of course, I don't, connect him because you get all sorts of crazies, trying to. But
well, when I'm launching my Bollywood career, that's when I'm ready. I'm going to take on Singham and I'm going to kick his ass. That's what's going to be.
but it's exciting for me. Getting to know new people, getting to have play for new audiences, and now Mark is coming back to India in August, on the 29th of August, and there's a great deal of excitement around that.
Yeah, it's going to be
That's
really fun.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about certain instruments. It takes a while for it to become into the just people getting used to it. I remember at a time when sacred steel was something that was, not very well known about or heard about, and then you have Robert Randolph and all these other players, and now it's a very accepted thing and a very beloved thing, and it would be fantastic for you to be yet another face for a newer instrument that you're getting to more people that you would not normally get to, and inspiring more people to pick up the instrument. So you never really do know what kind of impact that these recordings and many more to come, I'm sure, will have on fresh faces picking up the instrument, which is that's the best. Can you think of anything better for you to do besides the music that you're creating, but to inspire and begin people's career, a lifelong passion for something like this is pretty incredible.
Well, for me, certainly, the perpetuity and the legacy value of things that you do is very important, because, you have to be conscious uh, that what you are leaving behind is, especially in the digital age, it's going to stay for a long, long time. Whether it's a video or, it's a trend that, and for me, for many years now, I have wanted to inspire all. I mean, I also teach, and I have a foundation which kind of helps make careers for younger, not only sitar players, but any, Indian musician or Indian instrumentalist who comes to the and Mark has gotten to know a couple of my students, because they're always excited about this kind of collaborative music, and I want to inspire them to build their own collaborations, to find people that they can play with, to find common ground that they can interact on.
Yeah, yeah. It's great when people are playing in different styles with people from different parts of the world and collaborate and chopping up those little cubicles of different stylists and knocking down the barriers of things and creating something completely. Because I think you would be very hard pressed to put a label on what you guys do. Not that you would want to, but it's just incredible music. So however you arrive there, it's a beautiful thing, that the final product. So kudos, very
Yeah,
well
yeah.
done.
And
It's
speaking of
great.
label, I think. Sorry, I cut you in there.
Oh,
I
no,
was
no, you're
saying,
good.
speaking of label, we have to be very, very thankful to the folks of Ground Up, and that's thanks to Mark. I think they've been very supportive. They have taken this on, and they're putting it up on their, and Ground Up. For me, there's a certain emotion in this, because I heard of the story of how the label was created, from Michael, and I'm extremely delighted and proud that this music is on their label.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Well, man, thank you guys for being so generous with your time. This is great to hear about the process, how you met, and the great album. It's really well done.
Thanks, John.
Thank you
Right
very
on,
much,
man.
John.
Yeah, good to talk to you again, man.
Yeah, you as well.
Well, you guys,
I'm sorry.
I was just saying, you guys have a good rest of the day. It must be what, evenings, early evening or something in Dallas. What
Yeah,
time's it in
It's
Dallas?
yeah,
9 o'clock here. Yeah.
yeah. 10 o'clock
Okay.
here, 9 o'clock at Mark. I got to speak to Noel and
I'm
talk to him about his performance with EJ last night.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, we had a fun. That was a fun evening for sure. I'm
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
I'm subbing for Noel with the Dallas Symphony this weekend because he went on
Oh,
vacation.
nice. That's great.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. It was wonderful to
Thank you.
yeah. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
great hang.
You guys
All
have
right.
a
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Guitar Hang podcast featuring Mark Lettieri and Purbayan Chatterjee. Be sure to check out their brand new collaborative album, Feathered Creatures, when it releases on June 5th. It's a stunning musical journey that pushes boundaries while celebrating the spirit of collaboration and exploration. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your fellow musicians and music lovers. Really helps us continue to bring incredible guests and conversations to the show. You can also follow the Guitar Hang podcast, John's Guitar Lounge, and all of our upcoming projects online on social media for more interviews, lessons, gear talk, and live music content. And again, special thanks to the Woodshed Guitar Experience for sponsoring this episode. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and keep the music alive. Thanks for hanging out on the Guitar Hang podcast.